Hello, my friends. Russell Wright from super-intelligent.ai, and this is my wife, Kaylin Wright.
Hi.
And of course, you know her if you're in the private membership area for Q Miracle and Q Local, Q Star, which is our AI program, and of course, her information gain training, which we've been kind of putting out there for the last few weeks. For those of you who don't know about our organization, please do visit us at super-intelligent.ai. You can also join us at
Super.
members.super-intelligent.ai. And that is our Mighty Networks area. There's a free lobby area called Community, and we'll be having more areas that you can visit. And we'll also give you a roadmap so you understand what might be useful for you. So today we're going to talk about something really important. This is targeted to our current paid members in the Q Miracle area. Today we're going to talk about information gain, since Kaylin has launched a lot of material around that, including her private consulting. Sometimes we both consult, sometimes she consults. Also, we have a full-on training system that we're building. And I want you to understand the distinction. Many of you have been with me for many, many years in the SEO industry. The search engine optimization field, I began in the SEO almost 24 years ago. In fact, you're a mathematician, so you'll do the math precisely. But I began roughly 2001. I was being trained by Bruce Clay in 2003. I've have decades in this industry, and so it's really an exciting, strange, and weird time. I want to talk to you about all that. This is going to be a little bit prophetic. I'm going to talk to you both about where AI and compute is going. We're going to be talking to you about where our company is going and how we can help you and what we're really about. And more importantly, we're going to be talking about the distinction between search engine optimization answer engines and search engines. So first and foremost, those of you who've been with me with the training with Jimmy Kelley, the Sioma Mastermind, anything to do with the way that Jimmy Kelley, our business partner and our dear friend, and the way he teaches, having to do with complex site structures, otherwise known as entity-based optimization. We're going to help you understand where in the hierarchy of your personal expenses, your personal investment in training. For example, I believe that every person, every business owner right now in the tech field and even out of the tech field should be investing in their own education. And of course, we only have limited time, and most of us have limited money. So you're going to want to decide how you put your chips on the table. Like, what do you want to invest in? So I want you to understand that basically, entity-based optimization, all the stuff that we taught you guys for Google optimization still stands. Okay, and this is those of you who've taken our training and follow the rule set taught by Jimmy and myself about how to not over-optimize for entities, stop repeating keywords, all these different deep structural advanced trainings. We're going to have a training with Jimmy Kelley personally so that you can have access to Stormbreaker. Jimmy told me yesterday afternoon and today that probably the first release to students that are not high-paying customers and clients will be in the super-intelligent membership area where he can teach to the advanced systems training. Jimmy is like the John Nash of site structure, among many other things. And so as a code breaker, it's up to him as the primary inventor of Stormbreaker, and we're secondary inventors to Stormbreaker. It's important that we guide you carefully through these processes. This is why we don't want just anybody out there teaching how to use brand signals, how to use Stormbreaker, how to use all these things. Okay, so I want to talk to you. Let's start at square one. Information gain. The reason we're addressing it is not as a replacement for site structure, entity-based optimization, and following the rule set to rank on Google. Those of you who know some of our cool tricks that Jimmy and I have shown you, we're ranked for things like Anderson Mills SEO with no paragraph content on the page. The only optimization points are titles, H1s, H2s, H3s, and a few other tricks we threw in there, but we don't tell anybody, like, I don't know, since you guys are members, tags, and a few other things. But the paragraph, as you guys remember, some of you advanced SEOs with us, the paragraph content is nothing but face roll. It's just like garbly-gook, just gibberish. We put that in there to prove a point, that to rank on Google for mid-competitive keywords and advanced keywords, you really don't have to concern yourself much about the content gibberish, or you can put gibberish in there and still rank as long as you're optimizing those main points. Okay, we did that to prove a point, but obviously, guys, humans are not going to be interested in reading face roll content or gibberish content. When Jimmy and I were at the Locology conference. When was that? When was Locology when I went to San Diego?
It was in April of 2023.
Yes, and Jimmy and I went out in April, and of course, Jimmy exposed the content face roll with just the optimization points. Nobody was very happy because most of the backlink companies that were there and all the social media companies, they're optimizing for humans, not for pure SEO. And so they didn't really like the idea that face roll content can get you ranked. Well, this is where information gain comes in. Jimmy is our pure technical SEO hacker, whereas I am more of the content futurist, prophetic technology. Kaylin's more making sure that we all kind of stay in line, that there's a harmonious balance between these hardcore technical geeks. And she makes sure that she keeps her eye on the bottom line and makes sure that what we're doing, that includes you too, that all of us can make money on the actual thing. I mean, it's great to be a Howard Hughes genius myself, or I'm not comparing myself to Howard Hughes, I'm saying, but it's great to be like code breakers. It's great to have, John Nash technology hacking with you. But if you can't teach others to make money on that and incorporate it in your day-to-day business, it's just gobbledygook, very much like the face roll on the content. So what we're here to talk about today is manyfold. But I want you to understand that information gain is not a way to replace the on-site structure that Jimmy and I teach you and that Kaylin also knows quite a bit about. It's to help you understand that people who are spitting out content directly out of ChatGPT, just, hey, ChatGPT, I am John Benson. Please create a sales letter based on John Benson style sales letter that is 3,000 words, 5 paragraphs, right? And then it spits it out and then you just stick it on that site. What's been happening at Google is people have just connected the API directly to these chatbots, which is really no different than Article Forge or Spin Rewriter or Word AI or which is not really even AI anymore. They were pretending to be. Okay, it's just like connecting an AI to these article generators, and then having them just write thousands of pages on a blog, just like the good old days when we used auto blogging in 2004 and 2005. In fact, 2008, I created a plugin that made $500,000 called Video Kraken. And it was designed to just spit thousands of videos onto blogs as a plugin. Every day you could just set the cron and say, please publish 5,000 videos today. And it would do that. And the reason we did that is because we realized that Google was starting to detect just pure text content as being remixed. It's called remix content or spin rewriters. It'll take the same article and it'll change that article 500 times. And then the SEOs used to say, well, that's 500 articles and they're all unique content because the characters are in different combinations. Now you can't do that anymore. Now what's even weirder is the bloodbath that took place last year where entire sites written by AI with AI images were de-indexed. Well, that's just another form of content rewriting and auto blogging. And that auto blogging, however, is even more intelligent. It's almost like having an intelligent robot write articles. And if you put an API in there, there's no human being that's ever read those articles. They just took Corey Guber's topical SEO and said, oh, Corey says we need 5,000 articles around these 10 topics in order for this site to rank everywhere for gambling. And then they just had the robot connect to API and paid for the tokens. So just create 5,000 articles, right? And those articles were all about gambling. And did somebody ever read those articles? Probably not. Were the articles probably pretty damn good compared to the old Article Forge and eZine articles? Like, yeah, they're way better than, okay? The problem with that, what we're trying to help you understand, is we're not teaching information gain for just to replace all the ranking structures that Jimmy and I teach, entity-based optimization. Those are still true rule sets. We're trying to help you understand information gain, what Kaylin's showing you, so that you're not just taking articles right out of the AI robot and splattering them on the page with an application interface or an API, which, by the way, people did by the millions of pages. You know what I'm saying? So information gain is really hard to do by just pressing a button. You can create multimodal formats. Like how many steps do you do when you're teaching information gain, the stuff that you and I created? How many steps and multimodal AI interconnections would you say there are in order to get to the final article?
When I put together, I have a document that I share, and it currently has 11 steps with 11 different prompts. And if in like step 4 or 5, if the results are not true information gain or novel, and the AI says you need to add this or this, then you need to go back to step 1, do more research, put in more content that it can pull from, so that you actually end up with a true information gain, novel content article.
Excellent. And so Kayla and I have been talking, and so rather than use information game, which is a little techno, which is a completely fine word, we want to give you the technical patent names of all of these words, but we also are going to morph them a little bit. Topical novelty would be a great way of describing it. What topical novelty says is it's different than what Corey, the topical expert, the SEO that's very well known from holistic SEO. By adding the word novelty to it, it means that it's not been done before, or it's just not the 10 top links on Google, which all say mostly the same thing, which is what's called skyscraper content. It's also called article stacks. It's also called spin rewriting. It's also called listicles, is another word that we've seen for that. We want you to understand that those are just a different way of creating the same content, but over optimizing it with the optimization points, no matter what it says. So those guys are on the way out. So let's get into a little bit of the story here before we get into the difference between information gain, perplexity, and RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. And I know it sounds like heady, scary stuff, but guys, I want you to understand this. If you, our students and our business owners, understand these three concepts, you're going to be just as far ahead in the new money-getting industry for online and digital marketing and everything else as my students were, and some of you were with me then, when we knew about website siloed architecture 5 years ahead of everyone else. It's the same thing. So the story goes like this. I was watching the series Silicon Valley, so I'm going to give some street cred to it because I've heard this before. The same version of this story used to be, if Henry Ford was quoted as saying something like, if he had taken a market demographic survey about what people wanted back in the early parts before the car was actually put on the manufacturing line, they would have said faster horses, right? He got them faster horses, all right. But the other aspect of it was manure. New York City had a manure problem before the motor vehicle came out. And what happened is they did a prospective analysis and they found out that there would be over 18 feet of horse manure stuck in New York City with no way for it to get out within a 7-year period if they didn't do something fast. So they solved that problem by doing what?
A car.
So the car was the solution to horse manure. So what happened to all the businesses that were creating giant horse manure scoops, horse manure burn processes, horse manure transportation processes, all the millions of dollars worth of industry that came trying to deal with the horse poop it's called steamrolled in Silicon Valley. It was flat and gone. Like, go get a job. You're done with your startup. Okay.
Right.
So what I want to talk to you guys about, we are in that same inflection point. It's a lot of buzzwords thrown around in Silicon Valley, and the inflection point is one of them, but the inflection point is true. An inflection point is the transition from one industry to the other one. And I don't want the World Economic Forum to be the only group of people that has an understanding of how these things work. Okay. So the fourth industrial revolution is a real thing. Whatever you think of the stigma and the politicalization of that word by WEF, World Economic Forum, and the rest, we are in the same type of transition as we were during the dawn of electricity. Okay. And that is AI. But what does AI really have to do with us? What about all the hype cycle with AI? I want you guys to be the only group of students in the world potentially that are able to hang out with someone like myself, Jimmy, Kaylin, and the rest of many of you, in fact, I am finding are experts in this field of language learning models and these types of things. So we are in the same transition. But what does it have to do with anything in the real world? Kaylin is a master at asking questions like, what have you done for me lately, app? She's an expert at answering questions like, what does this have to do with anything right now in the real world? We're full-time RVers. We travel all around the country. She's taught me how to not be in an incubator startup apartment stuffed away somewhere in Silicon Valley or in Austin, Texas, all startup locations, and get out there in the real world and have a migration pattern. And some of my best thinking now comes not from only sitting in the lab with Jimmy Kelley, like I did for 7 years, but from traveling around the world with my wife and bouncing stuff off her while we're cruising down the road, or while we're overlooking a mountain, or we're hanging out at a waterfall, or while we're yelling at the kids over a campfire. Okay, whatever it is, they're just hanging out. So what does it have to do with us? What is this AI? What's the practical application of AI? Well, I wasn't wrong with website silo architecture. I haven't been wrong with Google. I've called a lot of the first things early. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know what's coming. Okay. Google's business model, which is advertising based, and the 10 blue links is going to transform. Okay. We're on the transition from links as answers to answers as answers. So search engines were the old model, the horse manure. And I would actually find it interesting. I would even go far as to say it really was horse manure. Like a lot of the people thought that Google would never work. Like, why would people want 10 blue links when there's 100 million other links that could be very unique and interesting? Mm-hmm. But they won. Why did they win? Because they stayed very close to their guns, and they transcended the Markov generation sequence, and they just decided that the Larry Page algorithm, which was the links that have the most number of links pointed to them, is probably the best link to put on the first page of the search engine result page. Think about that, guys. What could go wrong?
SEO.
Hey, SEO's ruin
everything.
So one of the things that I just want you guys to understand is we are in this transition from search engines into answer engines, or from Google into Perplexity.ai, or from Google, and there's several other search engines, okay? I've had the good fortune of having been around in enough of these transitions that I've been able to carry on conversations, for example, with, like, for example, the founder of Perplexity, very short conversations on LinkedIn. That would be as if Larry Page, back in the day where he was quite accessible during our early conferences, and Matt Cutts was quite accessible, and the founders were accessible. They were just people, guys. Nobody knew they were going to become $1 trillion company and invest $700 billion in AI, but not be able to execute any AI. Has it done for me lately? I mean, you would think that out of $500 billion, you'd be able to come up with an application that does your laundry, makes multimodal actions, accesses your data, can pay your bills, do your taxes. They had that capacity, guys, 10 years ago. 10 years. Okay, but why didn't they? They wouldn't change because their business model and their shareholders are all based on 10 blue links. Now, I know it's not easy to see. Well, Perplexity has just been funded by Mr. Jeff Bezos, Amazon mogul, who finds it very interesting to disintermediate the current models because he's got very little at risk. He stepped down from Amazon. Amazon's ease of transaction, the one click buy button, was his $1 trillion invention. People don't know that, by the way. He didn't invent just fast delivery. He invented zero resistance to accessing and purchasing. He took all the pain out of purchasing something that you want or love or need. Okay? And so he is a visionary. And so he dumped a ton of money into Arvind's company, Perplexity AI. Information gain is about optimizing for this search engine, but it's more importantly about optimizing for the next search engine. Guess what? Kaylin's information gain training and my information gain training that we're teaching you is not merely about replacing what Jimmy and I teach in terms of entity-based SEO. It's about already ranking on things like Perplexity, which are so fastly moving into the new position. Answer engines are so quickly replacing search engines that Google snatched up Reddit just like that. Quora would have been next, but Adam D'Angelo is on the board of directors at OpenAI. He's not going to sell nothing to Google. Okay? So the bloodbath that happened last month, which was a harbinger, and the person who wrote it is the head of the spam department, Danny Sullivan, who I spent time with at 3 different conferences. Never did I ever think that he would become the spam director of Google. He's now writing long articles saying, here's the 27 things you need to know before you ever use AI to write an article on your blog. Okay, and this is completely different than the structure that Jimmy and I teach you. Okay, for entity-based SEO. This is, if you're using ChatGPT and APIs from Anthropic, OpenAI, and the 27 Poe, which is Quora, which is why we teach Q Miracle. It's a Quora-based platform for human-based interaction, leads, as well as entity backlinks to your main website. Those still work, guys. Okay. So Where was I going with that? Yeah, that's
The
okay.
AIs.
Yeah, AI. It's all about AI. Oh, yes. So here's the thing. You can't spit AI content out of an API and no human being ever looks at it. Google lost their mind completely because thousands upon thousands of blogs just hooked up the API, just like our developer Umair would do or any of his teammates. And they just sat back and pressed a button and just, turned on HBO or started watching YouTube and populated a 1.5 million page site in 2 days. What could go wrong? How does that help the 10 blue links?
It doesn't.
It's very bad. Because guess what? They did a case study. They're finding out that human beings don't like AI generated content on its own. It takes them a while to recognize that. But when you're spitting out images that look like those robotic cartoon color books, which most of them do, otherwise known as Dolly transformed images, people are starting to recognize. And now we're getting concerned. And now people are a little bit paranoid. They're happy to talk to the Oracle in ChatGPT. They're happy to talk to the robot and start having a relationship slowly. Okay. But people are trying to have all the relationship with AI on the first date and cut the human out of the loop entirely. But the search engine is for a human. Search engine is not for AI robots. Robots don't type queries into the search engine. Robots don't buy things on Amazon yet. Okay. So this is the problem that I want you to understand. The bloodbath of thousands of pages and tens of thousands of websites being de-indexed came because Google recognized that nobody ever wrote that content or probably even looked at it. Sound familiar, guys? Okay, those of you who are with me since 2005, it's called autoblogging by any other name. It's still autoblogging. Autoblogging was de-indexed prolifically back in the day when they figured out that the site was doing it. And the way they throttled that back in the day was to prevent a certain number of pages from being de-indexed. Okay? I used to be able to index 10,000 pages a day, and I could put YouTube videos through their API on our website free, up to 100,000 videos a day. Now none of that is real because the index is too large. Okay? Index is too large. They can't handle all the spam. If you can have robots working 24/7 on how much spam can you generate on Google? Infinite amounts. So what is information gain about? The new patent, it's not a new patent actually. Bill Slawski from SEO by the Sea has talked about this for years while he was alive. Information gain is the ability of AI. The only thing Google wants to use AI for is to filter out AI. May the best AI win. My AI should be able to detect your AI at scale. And if you're writing content at scale that my AI can't detect, then I lose. And my shareholders fire me. Okay? That's what's happening. Okay? And so information gain is about generating content in a very specific weight that Kaylin can teach you guys how to do it. And what it is you guys don't know this, but everything has an information gain score. Just like it has a perplexity score, and just like it has a RAG score, retrieval augmented. So we're going to wrap this up with me defining these three concepts so that you know what's coming. And then we'll talk to Kaylin a little bit about information gain. And if you guys have any questions or Kaylin has any questions, you can ask. I want you guys all to know that I'm going in for mouth surgery for the next couple of days. So I'm doing this now because I don't think for the next several days I'll be able to think as clearly as I am right now, because it's a fairly intense mouth surgery that I've been putting off for about a year. So here's what I want you to understand. Information gain is looking at a corpus or a set of documents that has been returned after a query on the search engine. And when somebody looks at that, maybe they click on one. But when they click away or go somewhere else, a second set of documents is also offered that did not contain the same content, insight, wisdom, or even just pure data as the first corpus or document, and offers new corpus document to contrast that first one. By the way, guys, that's very similar to how a transformer works with a GPT. Okay, so then if the user finds the second set of documents interesting, they merge it with the first, they combine that, and they decide, oh, this article has more information gain score, has a higher information gain score. In other words, you have gained information. It's actually an insight detector, but we don't call it that. Okay? It's an insight detector. And this is a part of the training that Kaylin's going to be teaching. Okay? And we found a way These chat GPTs, or these transformers, actually have a way to detect information gain in a particular article, not just for the search engines, but within culture.
Right.
Okay. So that, and just to wrap that up, information gain score is going to be a huge thing. And then Arvin calls Perplexity AI Perplexity because Perplexity is also a score. What is Perplexity? Perplexity, a low perplexity score means that the probability of both the answers and the questions being correct is very high. So the lower the score, it's the opposite of information gain. A low perplexity score means that the transformer and the AI chat system, or the language learning model, understands both the question and the answer. So it's a way to use augmented retrieval and a way to use predictive learning within a probability matrix. Okay, so that means this is all happening behind the scenes. Today I had a discussion with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, yes, I am running a perplexity and an information gain score. I'm running perplexity, but I don't know that I'm running perplexity because it's unconscious. Okay, it can't go and say, my perplexity score of the question you just asked was 72, 43, 62, whatever each token has, and then spit out the probability of the right answer, and then wager its answer on perplexity. So to be perplexed means to be dumbfounded. Okay, so when you're a dumbfounded score, or I don't know score, or what the actual score is low, then the probability that you understand both the question and the answer is very high. Okay, so to wrap this up, I'm going to say that perplexity is these types of engines are the future. And everything that you've learned on Google is the same because they are answer engines. But as things move over to information gain and into perplexity, something called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, is going to be the future of almost all information and affordances online. What that means is every time Kaylin creates with you in the information gain article and runs you step by step through the process of creating something that's a radical new insight, or a topical novelty, or perhaps a polymath idea where 5 concepts, like when you're taking multiple books and putting them together. Guys, it doesn't matter if you use GrowthWorks or Perplexity or ChatGPT or Anthropic, or insert 5 different AI startups that'll be gone tomorrow here. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand these algorithms, and you understand that information gain requires that you come up with something new, in the same way that AlphaFold came up with many, many new proteins that were never conceived of, following the same rule set that human beings were never able to figure out. You take all the information from those corpuses, and you come up with a new way of folding the proteins, and you spit out new proteins so that you have a new corpus entirely. And what happens is the spiders, the language learning models, the transformers, the neural networks can recognize, not merely through text summarization like the old way, but through their entirety, they can fundamentally recognize that, wow, that's novelty. That's an entirely new way of thinking about this topic that no one has ever thought before. Kaylin will show you exactly how to think about this, because the machine, especially Anthropic is by far the most powerful pre-token engine that we have right now, which is why Perplexity takes these on. So she's going to show you how you can even find the score to see if an article has enough information gain to be recognized and useful. Other thing, guys, by the time you start writing articles like this, you're not going to get banned by Google, okay? Because they're going to go, oh, obviously you're not just spitting out stuff, okay? You're going to start getting indexed because of the novelty aspect of these articles in Perplexity, which is going to be a harbinger for the new answer engines coming out. And you'll already be ready from manure to be transformed into moving motorcycles and cars, okay? Everything before this, guys, has been manures. Now, we can't stop optimizing for SEO. I'm not suggesting that. In fact, Google's got a long time. Okay, their new AI search engine is really great. It has access to things that we haven't seen yet. Okay, it can even read photographs that Google Lens will not read. She'll show you that. Okay, we found out that Gemini has no problem understanding what is actually in a complex photograph. But you try to lens that, it's like, looks like everybody else is like writing. Okay, they're not telling us everything. Okay, so we're going to be talking about all of that when I get going next week. Okay, so retrieval augmented generation is simply when you ask a question and the AI doesn't know the answer, instead of just making stuff up and hallucinating, just says, I don't know the answer. Let me pull back a whole bunch of these documents and put them into one document. And then it remembers the documents that it had to pull together based on your questions. Are we okay? Based on your questions, and pulls together better questions. Okay? So I'll stop. That's the end of the Russell rant. But I wanted you guys to hear this because this is the beginning of an era. I usually don't talk about this type of thing unless I'm sure. I've done hundreds of hours worth of research on this. And I just wanted to let you guys know it's better to know what's coming. It's better to know the train that's coming in the tunnel.
Right.
There's a train versus the light. So let's talk to you.
Okay.
So tell me about the basic fundamentals of creating an information gain article that's not just an API spitting out content for humans right out of like the high schoolers that are saying, hey, Finn, when the teacher says, give us your homework, I want you to write a book report on Pygmalion or Robinson Crusoe. And they just go to ChatGPT and say, I want you to write a book report on Robinson Crusoe. What's the difference between that and information gain and creating information gain contextual articles that can be inside of answer engines?
Well, first you need to start with research. It's not like they're saying, oh, go read Robinson Crusoe and then write me a book report on it. You're coming up with a question that you want to answer. Now, what I've been doing for our own website is I want to get ranked for those people also ask questions. I want to get into that fold down there, and I want to be the answer to those questions. And so I would say that I am using the AI to do the research. Go out there, find me the experts in these fields. Find me the various angles that I need to address to answer this question. Then once it has compiled an assortment of books for me or articles for me or websites for me that it has deemed to be the experts on each one of those. For example, does superintelligence exist? I have that article on there.
Right.
When I had written my first draft, just using a couple books, it said, well, what about ethics? What about this? What about that? When I asked it, what's my novel content? What's my information gain score? It came back and said, well, you should probably address this, this, and this. That being said, I've learned to take and expand and then build from that and keep building from that until I've got a good article that I can then break down into scripts for shorts or reels that I can make images out of, that I can, true information gain images, that of course we've determined that Gemini can read, that I can make Instagram, posts for, Facebook posts for, Google business profile updates and posts for, even products from. So it's not just a one thing. It's not like I'm just creating one article that you can then use or sell to a client. Okay, here's your article for the month. But you can then take that one article and turn it into a vast information pool of its own that you can put into social media, that you can utilize for so many other aspects of your business or your client's business. So it's not just limited to, again, it can become a blog, it can become a series of blogs, and you can use a various number of AI to do this. And then I teach them how to fix grammar using AI, how to make it sound human, how to write for a human, how to not use words that AI has a tendency to use that humans never use in their vocabulary, which is one way that people can always tell that an AI wrote it, because there's words in there that we just don't use.
Yeah.
And so like if you're in Australia, you want it to write as an Australian. Or if you're writing for, in Germany, you want the AI to write to your geographic region.
Right, and your tone even.
Yeah, and your tone. And so, that's where, I don't just use one aspect. Um,
Yes, no,
and
you don't.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I constantly am weaving back and forth, and each time I do it, I'm finding better ways to handle it.
For sure. And I think my mic has died, so
Okay,
hopefully it didn't die in the middle of the talk, but
there you go.
that's okay. So I guess there's a lot more to talk to you guys about, and we're not going to do it in one video. We've been working on a systematized approach to dealing with what we knew would be an extravaganza, a bloodbath of auto-generated content, otherwise known as auto-blogging or auto-article. What would you rather have, though, guys? Would you rather find new and novel solutions and enlightened insight across topic? Would you rather use retrieval augmented generation to possibly come up with an entirely new idea that human beings haven't thought about? That's the true way to go viral. The true way to go viral is to have unique insight into a topic that possibly has never been put together before. This is why polymaths are so rare. I
Right,
predict that polymaths will become common for our children,
right,
okay, as they have retrieval augmented generation skills to use AI as a prosthesis for their intellect. They'll be able to consider multiple types of ideas across multiple disciplines, where our very linear and box squared school systems that were designed for the previous revolution, the previous industrial revolution, would not be able to do.
right.
And I think that that will move us out of this strange place where we're viewing AI as an oracle or as some sort of god to be worshipped, and more as a place to be a prosthesis for insight and awareness and ideas. And once our fear of bias ends, in fact, a lot of the AI models, what's holding them back is the ethical, religious, metaphysical, and kind of racism, all these topics that people are afraid that they're going to regurgitate our own unconscious conflicts with each other.
Right.
Once we get past that and we realize that it's a retrieval augmented function, and we start using data and knowledge bases from our own life, we'll be able to have conversations and polymath concepts across our own data sets and our own life story and our own media files and our own documents so that we can have better insight into our own data, our own lives, our own beliefs, and our own structures.
Yeah, we want to add things to the articles. Well, what, okay, answer this question people also ask. But then we want the compilation of that article to make it applicable to a human. So when you remind the AI, a human's going to read this. How could this be applicable to, a human living in 2024 that has a limited income, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How could, I mean, maybe you're writing an article for your client that's a painter. How could this be useful to a homeowner that has a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? AI will deduce all of that stuff and put it in the article. Well, once you start, people love to watch reels on hacks. So if you can get the article generator to not just create this article, but then to create like life hacks that are useful that answer that question, then you have information that humans want to gain.
Correct. That's 100% correct. Topical novelty and insights, the same type that are addictive viral tweets and shorts, these are all about life hacks. And what's crazy is the amount of data that AI is consuming is there, but unless we ask the right questions and combine the right novelty across multiple domains and polymath our own intellect and create a prosthesis for this tool, we'll never even know how strong the AI is within our own life. And it'll be left to the scientists and the centralized AI systems at Google and Microsoft, and to dish out these little pieces to us. This is why we're such a huge fan of the open source AI movement, because we want all of you to be able to have this in your own life and in your desktop. And that's what information gain is about. So baby steps. We're partnering with Text Cortex soon, which is an amazing application created by a guy named Dom in Germany. And they're growing very, very rapidly. And they're all about the open source movement and how to use this stuff in context. So we'll keep growing week after week and we'll continue. But I just want you to understand that SEO, entity-based structures, are over here. But AI prosthesis, using your own work and your own mind in combination with AI, is part of information gain so that you don't get deleted because you've just used AI to replace humans. That's extremely bad. Google doesn't like it. We don't like it. And we want you to understand that if you could use the SEO teachings that we have combined with the information gain, you're going to be prepared for probably the next 10 years And that's really, really exciting.
Right.
Okay. I
Well,
guess we can, go ahead.
we'll see you on the inside. Um, Answer the one question: who needs this course?
That's a really good one. The person that would need this course is somebody who's a futurist. They want to be there. You know, the early adapters that we haven't, the people that stand out in front of the Apple store and wait for that first iPhone to come across, and they're willing to spend the night out in front of the store.
Yep.
That's not this. People have already done that. Okay. The early adapters have already gotten inside the store. They're already figuring this stuff out, guys. This is for those of you who now who live in the normal world, who want to start integrating this and preparing for, yes, job replacements. Fact. There's all kinds of jobs that we did not expect to be replaced that are happening now. There's a musicians uprising. There's the union in Hollywood now because it's all happening because of Sarah. All the guys, it's all real. There's no hype going on here. The hype cycle was February of 2023. Okay, there's no hype cycle here. Right now, what we have is the ordinary human has got to learn to use new tools, just like when Excel came out. Right. Just like when all these stuff, to not be afraid of it, to not give it religious or spirit. You don't worship these technologies. These technologies are not human beings, but they are future companions for sure. Just like spreadsheets are future companions. These spreadsheets just tend to talk back to you. So you need to learn how to have the right kind of conversation with these.
Well, I hope that this was informative to you all and that you gained some information, that you got some information gain and novel content out of it. And feel free to shoot me a message on the network if you have any questions, and I will do my best to answer them while Russell is recovering.
Thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on the inside of super-intelligent.ai.